Today I thought it would be fun to do the clean slate book tag. Number 1, are there any books you're going to read more or less of in the coming year? Yes, I want to read a lot more horror, especially horror with a speculative angle, and a lot less thriller. I dipped my toe into thrillers over the past couple of years, and personally I don't think it is for me if there's not a speculative element attached to it. I just think there's not enough character building for me, and the plot themselves feels really predictable. Since I'm in on the twists and turns, I'm not really enjoying the journey or like surprised by any of it. I'd also like to read more hard science fiction, hard fantasy stories instead of like fantasy romance. I've actually really enjoyed my romp in sci-fi romance, but like paranormal romance and romantasy are not really scratching that fantasy, fantastic element itch for me. It's a little bit hard because I like contemporary fantasy stories. I don't like all that old-timey shit, and I don't feel like we get as many opportunities to explore contemporary fantasy as I really need. Part of the reason that I go to so much paranormal fantasy is because incorporating that romantic element seems to be like the key component to actually get a story set in the present day. 2, are there any books you've recently read that change your own philosophies or beliefs? So I don't know if this counts, but Forbidden Animals by Peter Lawfer has made me like detail out my feelings about the exotic pet trade, exotic pets, exotic animals in general. I don't know that my opinion has changed on it, but I have started creating like a rubric of, I don't know, what I feel is ethical or not ethical, what I feel is good treatment of animals or poor treatment of animals. Made it a lot more solid and able to apply, even though I would say that every situation with an exotic animal is kind of nuanced and I would need to know details before I could decide for myself about where that lands for me. Where the Dead Brides Gather has also sort of made me rethink interpersonal relationships and dynamics, and it's also made me rethink about like whether or not I'd be interested in interacting with supernatural in a very direct, tangible kind of way. Obviously that's not something I do in my day-to-day life, and it might not be something that I'd ever have an opportunity to do, period, because who knows if like religious supernatural whatever even exists. I'm pretty agnostic on the topic. Generally speaking, probably since I was a kid, I've always thought like being involved with the supernatural, being chosen or whatever would be really cool, and this narrative specifically helped hammer home why people might not feel that way, even though I don't think anything above and beyond heinous happened to this girl. Was really interesting and helped me rethink what it means to be chosen and how that would or wouldn't impact someone. Bat Eater and Other Names for Corazang by Kylie Lee Baker really clarifies some of like the anti-Asian sentiment that was happening in 2020 and happens generally, right? But how it came to a frenzied peak at that time period and the kind of like shock waves that have happened since then. Who would you recommend a newbie to BookTube watch? Obviously I have to shamelessly self-promote and say you should watch me, but shameless self-promotion aside, I think someone like My Name is Marina's, who does these really great detailed analysis of books that she reads, and she gets through a whole bunch of viral book talk books, would be a great setup. I also like Jess Owens. I think her video style is really approachable and conversational, and I enjoy that. Heather over at Hia Booktubes is kind of known for her lesser known recommendations in different kinds of romance subgenres, a little bit more in touch with the indie scene. Izzy from Happy For Now does amazing book vlogs. Bex from Bex Reads is a great bookish community person, and if you're looking to like really up your game and be involved in the community, she's a great place to start. And I also really like Tangible Reads from like a starter perspective, because I think she does a really great job giving a summary of what she read, giving her thoughts and impressions, and breaking it down in a way that like isn't too heavy in any kind of bookish jargon, doesn't get too into the weeds, and is very approachable for people who are maybe getting back into reading for the first time. 4, do you have a book it bucket list? If by that you mean do I have a TBR, then obviously. If by that you mean like a list of books that I have to read before I die, like hell no, because I don't really believe in bucket bucket list in general. First of all, I think it's really morbid to have a list of stuff you have to do before you die. I also think that's a lot of pressure to put in yourself. And on top of that, depending on where you are in your life, like if you're younger or if you feel like really healthy and outgoing, then you think you have like a lot of time, and putting something on your bucket list is an excuse to put it off for later because you have a long time before you kick it, right? Or like if you're at the end of your life or you're feeling really sickly or in like a desperate state for whatever reason, then you're looking at that bucket list and feeling an intense amount of pressure and maybe focused on doing and experiencing instead of like being present with whatever time you have left, being with friends and family. Maybe you're so focused on this list and how you can't, finish it before your time runs out that you're like sad, depressed, stressed out. Like, why would I do any of that? And if you're like in the middle of life, then a bucket list doesn't really seem important on either side. So to me, I just do not understand why people keep that thing. 5. What is it about BookTube that surprised you the most? I think how relatively unchanged it's been since I started viewing like back in 2012, 2013-ish. The BookTube staples are more or less the same. We have book tags, we have reading vlogs, we have hauls and unhauls, we have standalone reviews, monthly wrap-ups, TBRs, which is to be read lists. I don't really think that format has changed a lot. Certain things have gone in and out of style. I think tags had a heyday several years ago and have never been as popular since, but they definitely still populate, as evidenced by this one right now. There's been discourse around hauls and unhauls, but it hasn't actually stopped the popularity of that style of video. I don't know, all of these things have their niche. The long intros, the long outros, it very much feels like a little locked in time moment where all the other genres of YouTube I watch have gone through like phases of different kinds of editing, formatting, styles to be relevant. Pretty much could have started in 2012 and be doing exactly the same thing now and have the same level of relevance and get the same audience. 6. What are some goals you have? They don't have to be BookTube relevant. So if we're not doing BookTube relevancy, I'd really like to finish the first draft on my second novel. For anyone who doesn't know, I originally started this to promote my first novel, Follow Me, Tattered Veils. That's a contemporary fantasy novel, which is of course available on Amazon in both paperback and e-reader and available on Kindle Unlimited if you have any interest. And even though that story has a complete beginning, middle, and end, I do have what I feel like is a follow-up to that story that I'm probably about 1/3 to 2/3 done with at this point. And I just really would like to have the rough draft done. And I've been dragging on it and giving myself excuses and just not sitting down and doing what I need to do to finish. I really, really want to help my friend publish her novel. She's got this amazing work and she has a really cool way to like distribute it installment wise. And I just love the concept. I love everything about it. And I really want to schedule that out and help her get that done. 7. If you could meet anyone, dead or alive, any writer, artist, or a musician, who would it be? And honestly, I wouldn't. They say don't meet your heroes, and I feel like it's for good reasons. Number 8. Would you rather have your life written by your favorite author or be portrayed by your favorite actor? Neither. My life is really not that interesting. Having someone either write it down or act it out feels like a waste of time and talent to me. Number 9. What are some challenges you've overcome or would still like to improve when it comes to your channel? Packaging, thumbnails, and titles. Feel like my content is actually pretty good. And guys, comment down below if that's not the case and tell me what I need to work on in that angle if that's what the problem is here. I feel like I do a pretty good job with what is in the videos, so then the issue has to be getting eyes on the video, getting people to click in and stick around, which has to come down to thumbnail and title, right? And then number 10, what advice would you give someone who's thinking about deleting their YouTube channel? First of all, I'd tell them to do whatever makes them feel happy and fulfilled. But that said, I would personally advise against deleting a channel. If you don't want to keep posting, you can just leave it abandoned, perhaps leave a note saying that you're not going to put any more updates anymore so people don't worry about where you are. Leaving a channel and deleting it to me are two very different things. And like if they felt self-conscious for some reason about the content that was up on the channel, I think I would advocate for unlisting it or even privating it before actually deleting it, because that's like such a permanent and extreme extreme step. People can go through different seasons of emotion about certain things and maybe be in different places at different time. And because of that, they might feel in the moment that this is something they want to get rid of and destroy forever, and then realize later that that was a mistake or that was like a heated sort of impulsive decision. And effectively, if you just don't want your videos to be up anymore, privating them or unlisting them is going to do the same thing. In fact, there's a booktuber that I'm a pretty big fan of who has moved all of her videos to unlisted right now, and I'm not quite sure why. At first I was afraid she had deleted everything, and then I found like a couple links I had to some of her older videos and realized they were just unlisted for whatever reason. That would be my preferred way of handling that if for some reason you wanted to delete a channel. I mean, obviously I've been booktubing for almost 4 years now pretty regularly. I really enjoy it, so I'd probably want to talk to them and see like if they just needed a break, if they're burnt out, if they're really done forever, and then come up with something more specified to their situation. But just like generically, I would say that deleting is a very extreme move. Privating or unlisting is probably a preferable first step. Talk to me in those comments down below. What genre do you want to read more of? And if you've got this far and don't know what else to say, leave me a spray bottle emoji in those comments down below. And as always, keep reading.